Legendary's upcoming Monsterverse movie, Godzilla x Kong. Supernova has spawned a number of popular villain theories, but the latest proposes that the new villain will mimic one of Godzilla's key powers to devastating effect. Starring a talented cast of sci-fi and horror veterans, there is some speculation that the next chapter in the Monsterverse could strike a darker tone than its predecessors. That tonal shift would most certainly begin with the villain, which would fall in line with Godzilla's history on the big screen. Some Godzilla enemies, particularly from the Showa era of movies, have been decidedly less intimidating. Adversaries like Biollante or Destoroyah, on the other hand, brought the franchise closer to its horror movie roots. While the most popular choice for Godzilla x Kong, Supernova's villain is still his cosmic crystalline clone, Space Godzilla given the movie's subtitle. There are other villains it could apply to, with other terrifying powers. Regardless of whether it's a Toho villain or a Monsterverse original, there is one power of Godzilla's that could help make the big bad's reign of terror a veritable horror show. Perhaps the most incredible power that the Monsterverse's Godzilla has demonstrated since he burst onto the scene in 2014 is the ability to absorb the DNA or energy of other titans. That has plenty of basis in his Toho history, as he's absorbed the energy of allies to help him power up for a final battle on numerous occasions. In Godzilla, King of the Monsters, Mothra sacrificed herself at the claws of Ghidorah, and in doing so allowed her energy to pass to Godzilla, which activated his burning Godzilla form, allowing him to discharge raw, orange nuclear energy in a massive pulse, disintegrating Ghidorah. In what some considered to be an uncharacteristic twist for Godzilla, we saw him hunt and kill Tiamat in Godzilla x Kong, The New Empire, so that he could not only absorb her DNA, but also steal her lair. He cocooned himself in the solar radiation there, and between that energy and Tiamat's DNA, he emerged in his evolved Godzilla form, with ultra-powered pink atomic breath. Whether the villain of Godzilla x Kong, Supernova, is Space Godzilla, or a different titan, that adversary could possess a similar ability to absorb DNA and energy from other monsters, just as Godzilla does. What turns the power darker is the villain's willingness to slaughter other titans to take their power, just as Godzilla did with Tiamat. That ability could truly be applied to any villain, although there is an unused villain from Godzilla's history that could make a lot of sense with that ability. It would also make sense for Space Godzilla, especially given his status as a clone of Godzilla. It would make sense for him to be able to mimic Godzilla's powers. However, there is another Toho villain that is an even better fit. In Godzilla 2000, Millennium, an alien race creatively named the Millennians, arrived on Earth with the intention of cloning Godzilla by absorbing some of his cells with their spacecraft. The Millennians combined themselves into one massive collective form that was distorted into the hulking, mutated monstrosity known as Orga. Orga successfully absorbed Godzilla's regenerative capabilities and his strength, and was able to project a kinetic energy beam out of what essentially amounted to a shoulder cannon. However, its primary goal in battling Godzilla quickly became subduing the atomic kaiju, so that he could literally swallow him and absorb the rest of his characteristics. Unsurprisingly, Orga never accomplished the feat and was destroyed from the inside out after a partially swallowed Godzilla unleashed a mighty atomic blast while inside the monster. The key takeaway is that Orga is actually a great fit for Godzilla x Kong, Supernova given its cosmic origins, and his ability to mimic Godzilla's Monsterverse power of absorbing an enemy's energy, or DNA, to then use for its own form. If the Monsterverse introduces Orga in some way, then its dark plan could revolve around killing the Earth's titans for its own benefit. It would allow for Godzilla x Kong, Supernova to show off some of the Monsterverse's underused titans, of which there are many. Orga running wild across the Earth, taking out known titans like Methuselah, Baphomet, Bunyip, or the terrifying Abaddon, would make for a thrilling, albeit devastating Monsterverse adventure, and give Godzilla and Kong a true reason to team up once again. No matter what direction the overarching narrative moves, It needs to find a way to fix the Monsterverse's biggest current problem, which is a lack of screen time for Godzilla.